Creation Science Evangelism presents Creation in Common Sense with Eric Hovind.
Hi, welcome to Creation in Common Sense. I'm Eric Hovind. You know, Thursday, February 12th is the 200th anniversary of Charles Darwin's birthday. Joining with me to celebrate that is Jonathan Sampson and Joshua Jocelyn, and we'd just like to say, Happy birthday, Chuck! This is great, man. 200th anniversary, and today, or not, excuse me, not today, but this year marks the 150th anniversary of his book, The Origin of Species.
Busy year, man.
Yeah, so evolutionists and atheists are calling this the year of Darwin.
That's right.
So in the year of Darwin, let's go back and examine, has evolution evolved? I mean, has it been changing at all? What exactly has been going on? It started off kind of different. Tell us how it started, Jonathan.
Well, it's in the early wave, or actually in the late wave of this, we have ideas like Lamarckism. The classic textbook example of that is the suggestion that giraffes reaching for higher branches on trees would somehow pass along longer necks to their offspring. Darwin, of course, didn't want to back that up. He instead suggested that the environment around you would select certain traits that would allow you to survive in those climates and those areas.
Natural selection.
Natural selection.
Yeah, which we agree with. I mean, I don't have a problem with natural selection, and it's true, nature does select things, but it can't create things. And I think that's a big distinguishing factor there, because Darwin used that to say that was literally the creative force to cause evolution.
Right, and the thing is, after Lamarckism failed and Darwinism failed, we turned to something else called neo-Darwinism, which replaced classic Darwinism. Although most scientists remained classic Darwinists, they believed in just natural selection being the drive behind evolution until about the 40s, the 1940s. Before then, though, Sir Julian Huxley said very emphatically, so far as we know, natural selection is the only effective agency of evolution.
And they said that was it.
In the 40s, they realized, no, this isn't enough. We have to add a mutation or something to be selected. And so they thought, okay, yeah, random defects in the genetic information will be selected. That's good. But
So-
that's another problem, though, because genetic defects are not necessarily a good thing.
So take classic Darwinism, add mutations to it, and you have neo-Darwinism.
Exactly.
The problem is those mutations would have to be frequent and vertical. They'd have to help out and make something.
Exactly.
That's actually been a problem for many, many years. I mean, just for the last decades, it's in published papers. Even Francisco Ayala published in 1978, Scientific American, he said that although mutation is the ultimate source for all genetic variation, it's a relatively rare event.
Yeah.
So it's not as if this stuff is just sitting aside in abundance for them.
And that is the problem. I mean, they don't have a lot of mutations, and they're never vertical. They're not creating something new. They're working with the existing information.
Right.
So where does evolution evolve to from there? If these don't work, where do you go from there?
Exactly. Well, the thing is, even if these mutations were frequent, which they're not, that still wouldn't necessarily provide the evidence or the mechanism that evolutionists are looking for. And here's why. With the advent of the X-ray, we have now been able to speed up the process of evolution by orders of magnitude in the laboratory. For instance, the fruit fly experiment.
Yeah.
We nuked those flies over and over and over again. And the only thing that happened was they became deformed and they died and terrible things happened to them. They were born without wings. They couldn't even walk, some of them. It was a terrible disaster. So
The ones without wings, you have to call a crawl, not a fly.
I guess so.
Yeah, because that really wouldn't work too
So
well.
even neo-Darwinism is now failing.
So in the fruit fly experiment, they raised 80,000 generations of fruit flies. I mean, a lot of time, geologically speaking, as far as for evolution to take place.
Still didn't work.
And we didn't get anything to evolve,
No.
vertically. Nothing but worsening off the fly.
Exactly.
Well, I know they've come up with some other rather unique ways of trying to explain evolution. What's one of those?
Oh yeah, they're desperate now. Some have turned to the hopeful monster theory, which is basically the idea that a bird could hatch from a reptile egg because they have no evidence, and so they're just looking for something to prove their theory of evolution. And it's getting ridiculous.
It should be said that they're not all that psychotic.
True.
Though. There's like Stephen Jay Gould, the late scientist. He was actually a proponent of punctuated equilibrium, which would suggest not that birds would hatch from reptile eggs, but that radical changes could take place in short geological time periods, like 10, 20, 30,000 years, as opposed to the classic idea that it would take 10, 20, 30 million years.
But either way, both hopeful monster and punctuated equilibrium are arguing from the lack of evidence.
Exactly.
If there's no fossils, it happened quickly, because we know evolution took place.
So we still see that they're trying to support this theory of evolution, And they've tried several things, tried Lamarckism, Darwinism, neo-Darwinism, hopeful monster, punctuated equilibrium. None of them have stood the test of time to say, yes, this is what supports evolution theory. But yet they don't ever question evolution theory.
That's the thing. Evolution theory isn't up for debate. But they do need to find something that will actually fit in evolution. What will hold evolution up? They haven't found anything yet, though.
Still having a hard time finding that mechanism.
You know, they could solve all the problems if they would just admit that this is a philosophical or religious worldview.
Exactly.
Because then they're entitled to have it. But if they're going to call it science, they need to have evidence.
And that's where they keep finding the problem.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, until evolutionists find the evidence for evolution, we'd just like to say, keep on using creation science for evangelism.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Charlie. God bless.